Kerrit Podcast. Podcast, good song.
Yeah, this sounds like something carrots could grow to.
Crunch into us. What's up, Doc? What are we doing?
I don't know.
Fuck them. Crunch.
Hang on.
Why is it tangled? What happened?
I think I have to... Hang on.
It's a mess.
Can you see me okay?
I can. I had to change my internet, so...
Oh, you got a new service provider.
No, it's the same.
I'm sorry.
for the people,
Tell me more.
For the Stop it.
Hi, everyone.
For the people listening, Kevin's just sipping out of this mug in the. Just go to the YouTube. The cord is so
Get the
tangled.
goddamn untangled shit. Look how tangled this is, everybody. Do you see this? What am I supposed to do about this?
What did you do?
I didn't do anything. I'm just trying to have a meeting.
Oh my god.
That's how people look. Did you know that?
That's every person looks like that.
Yeah. So how are you doing, Gerrit? Oh hey, welcome to the
There we go.
God damn it.
If you want
I
to
didn't do this.
If you want to fix it, you totally can.
I didn't do this. And the thing is, I realize it feels like I probably did because who would be using it, but why would I do this? Like that's what I don't get.
Here, hold,
like, do you
hold
ever...
I'm pretty good at untangling things. Maybe I can do it over Zoom. Hold it up.
Yes.
Okay, now you're going to
Wait, so I have to do it? I thought you could do it over Zoom.
Here, let me just grab it from
Here you go.
Yeah, just feed the big thing through the little
I'll be
hoop.
right back. Go ahead and advertise whatever you need to advertise.
Okay, well here's something. I just got Shudder, so there's a thing you guys can listen to, watch. It's there's horror documentaries and horror movies on there. It's basically Netflix for horror, so that's what I've been doing lately. Kevin is still having a terrible time. Did you get it?
I'm gonna. Yeah, I got it. I totally got it.
Great, good.
Welcome to the Kerrit Podcast, everybody. My name is Richard. This is Jarren, and we are taking over for Kevin and Gerrit for the day, given that they are currently on
Medical
holiday.
leave. Yes.
What did you say?
Medical leave. But
Jarren is right.
It's a holiday as well, so good.
Yeah,
I'm
in
Jarren.
America, am I right? Okay, we're not focusing on that. The joke, of course, being that you have to use up your vacation time to be able to, be
safe.
Okay. Anyway, we're not doing that today. We're doing a fun episode today. And Jarren, would you like to introduce the episode?
Sure, while you take a wonderful sip out of your Christmas mug. What are you drinking?
Eggnog.
Richard,
I'm trying
that sounds
to
great.
because it's Christmas themed. And I found a place serving eggnog. It's in an alleyway between a bar and another bar, and it was served by a homeless man. And it was really weird because I was like, this doesn't really look like eggnog. It looked kind of, I don't want to say slushy, but certainly soggy. And
Richard's drinking semen, everybody.
Ah, dang it. Are you sure?
Positive.
It felt too good to be true.
And now
He said it was free. I was like, oh, sweet.
And now you're HIV positive. Hey!
Oh, I remember that joke.
That would have worked about 45 seconds ago when you first said positive.
It probably would have worked also like 15 years ago, and then that was the only time it could have worked.
I know.
Get it? Because I'm saying it's old.
I know.
I'll be explaining a lot of things today.
Is that just a thing that Richard does? Because Jarren here is going to do some hacky jokes. I'm ready.
I think that both ourselves, being Richard and Jarren, will be doing lots of things differently while Kevin and Gerrit are on. Why does, it's weird how Jarren sounds like Gerrit, but Richard does not sound like Kevin at all.
No.
Obviously, it doesn't matter because they're all completely different people, so, no big deal.
Exactly. You got that going for you.
Exactly, which is nice.
So for this episode, the boys thought that they would do, this, but, it's us doing it, so it's going to be interesting. They talk about horror movies all the time on this podcast, so we figured we'd talk about how, Freddy versus Jason is 17 years old?
17 years old, which means it came out in 2003, which is how the cool kids are saying years these days.
And that is the last canonical entry in both series, isn't it?
Yes.
That's crazy to me.
It is crazy. It's crazy for a number of reasons. One reason, I'm just going to start with the fundamentals here. I remember when I was terrified of horror movies.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And, to overcome that fear and have that movie in my presence, because I saw it when it came out. Like, I saw it right when it came out on DVD, when you could still rent from Blockbuster.
Same. My aunt and uncle bought it on DVD, and then that's how I watched it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is. And it's crazy because that movie made me less afraid of horror movies because it's hilarious and goofy.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, are they all like this? And they kind of are. Even the ones that are trying are pretty fucking hilarious usually. So, but yeah, it's crazy because that was 17 years ago. That was the age we could have been to see it. We had to be 17 to see it. And I was like, I don't know, what, like 11 or 12 at the time?
Well, we're 29 now, so 34 minus 5 is...
Exactly.
We were 17 minus 5, so 12.
Or you could count up you could do 2003, which is 2003 in lame terms, minus 1991, which is 12.
We were 12. Good job.
Anyways.
Nice job, Richard. You made it more difficult.
No problem, Jarren.
I always do love the person that, like, you have a way of doing it, and the other person's like, or you could do this, and it's harder. And you're like, okay.
It's not harder. 2003 minus 1991, because then it's like just a difference of 2. It's like a 10 and a 2 instead of 2020 minus 2003, which is 17, and then you'd have to do our age is 29 minus 17, which is, I guess, the same thing. It's still 12. I mean, obviously.
That's also the thing that I think makes it harder is describing how you got there, like showing your proof.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's so weird how that works. Like, for me, figuring out anything above 10, so if you use the number 9 and you're trying to add a certain number to it, all you have to do is the next digit, like the next row of 10 that you get to. If you're adding a number to 9, so let's say you add 2 to 9, what's 1 less than 12? 11.
Uh-huh.
Because 2...
Right.
See, in my head, it makes total sense because I'm picturing the numbers, but you have no fucking idea, Richard.
No,
it's crazy.
when you say I think of it in terms of playing cards because I use a lot of playing cards because I'm a magician because my name's Richard, not Kevin. Kevin wouldn't do this.
Now, Richard, can I call you Dick?
Yeah, please. Call
Perfect.
me Big Dick because I'm a tall person, not for any other reason.
Got it.
Anyway, these are cards, and I think I play cards a lot. And so that's how I think of it. If I see a 9 and a 2, it's 11. It's just it's like boom. It's just,
yeah, that's a simple one for sure. I just remember in school I was trying to explain it in class because I'm like 9 plus 5. Well, it's basically like, let's say instead of 9 it's 10. So 10 plus 5 is 15, but you're taking 1 off, so it's 14.
Right. Yeah,
that's
14 minus 1 or 15 minus 1.
Yeah. That's another way of doing it. It's so interesting. Math is interesting, but then you get to certain things like I know nothing about decimals and, percentages and fractions. I'm fucked.
Yeah, you don't need to. I read the title of a study that said that most math is done by blue-collar workers and not by white-collar workers, which is funny because you're supposed to learn a bunch of math, and who learns a bunch of math, Gerrit?
Get people to go to college.
Exactly. And who are blue-collar workers?
People that don't go to college.
Exactly. And yet they're using more math. So what is going on, people? Why have we established this situation?
I don't know. But I do know that people that know more math think they're smarter than other people.
I
But
have not met that in real life. I don't think.
I feel like with blue collar workers, like the one thing that they know, they're smarter than everybody else because they know that one thing so well. Like my dad's really good with, like all the things like architecture, that kind of stuff, and like measurements and fractions and stuff. I'm dog shit at it, but I don't think that I'm smarter than him because of that. But I don't know. This is Jarren, by the way, not Gerrit.
Yeah, not
Gerrit's
Gerrit.
really good at math.
Interesting how both Gerrit and Jarren have similar father stories, though.
Yeah.
See, because my dad is Mexican, and I know it doesn't show on my face. I don't have that sort of tan color. It's because he was he was albino, and so that was rough on my mom. She just she couldn't find him one day. She was just like, "Where is he?" She didn't realize it was because we had traveled north and there was a blizzard.
And
But,
well, thanks for doing a Stephen Lynch joke on the podcast.
is that a real joke?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's a real song of his, albino.
That's crazy. I gotta say, full disclosure, I know who Stephen Lynch is, and I remember listening to material of his when I was in like 8th grade. So it's very possible that seeped into my brain
Yeah.
and became part of. I mean, it's also obviously part of my backstory because I am Richard.
Yes.
But still crazy that is what happened.
Now, what's your dad's name?
Jimenez.
Jimenez. Okay.
Jimenez. It's actually a last name, but it's also his first name.
You're getting better at improv, but it's still a little bit.
It's weird that you say that because thank you first, but
You're not
I'm not
improving,
even
it's just memory.
Yeah, it's just real. My father's name is Jimenez. He's a Mexican albino, and he got lost in a blizzard. And my mom was like, "I guess I'm moving on with my son Richard, who has not a Mexican name nor a Mexican last name, because my last name is Ricarolakpo, which is actually it's actually Norwegian." Anyway, let's continue.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
17 years is a long time.
It is.
It used to not be a long time, I think. Or no, sorry.
Well, I feel like once you've lived those 17 years, then you look back on it and you're like, Jesus Christ, that was a long time ago.
That's
like,
the way to put it.
None of my own personal experiences feel like that long ago. I feel like I've been living my whole life and there's been no time that's passed. You feel like you're just in it. Everything feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Except for the last 4 years, but we'll get to that. But looking at a movie that you watched 17 years ago for the first time, that's like that moment was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there are a lot of things that we discussed prior to the episode that we want to get to, and I do want to get to those because I think the measuring of like years and also the measuring of years through franchises is really kind of an interesting thing to dive into.
Yes.
But one quick note on years that kind of popped into my head. It's crazy it's been 17 years since Freddy vs. Jason came out, but when we were born in 1991, that was only 6 years after Back to the Future, and only 2 years after Back to the Future Part 2, and only 1 year after Back to the Future Part 3. So when we were born is closer to Back to the Future than we are now to Freddy vs. Jason. I don't know if that's crazy to you. It seems crazy to me, just kind of.
Dude, it is crazy. Also, we were born almost 3 years exactly before Bill Hicks died.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what's weird about that, too?
And my sister was born the same year.
1994.
Yep. That's nuts.
I think it's interesting. I remember you talking about him a lot. I mean, I know you do because he's like your favorite comedian. I totally get that. But what was that?
I farted.
For those of you who aren't watching the video, Gerrit stood up, turned around. I thought that someone had dropped a quarter on the floor because it was so light, but it was a fart. And
now it gives people reason to replay it.
It was good. They're going to replay it. They're going to hear this. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It doesn't matter. Okay. Anyways, I forgot what I was saying. That's totally fine.
Years.
Years are crazy. Yes. 1994. Bill Hicks. You love Bill Hicks. I
Mhm.
remember you talking about him in middle school and me being like, I've never heard of that guy. He's probably not famous. And then years later, because YouTube exists and now like everyone loves stand-up comedy, like Netflix fucking married stand-up comedy. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
But now everyone knows about Bill Hicks. I'm like, damn, it's too bad he's not alive because he'd have a very interesting perspective on the goings on of today.
Oh, he 100% would. I mean, even with 2001 and the 9/11, all that stuff, he'd have a different view on everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So
but,
okay,
rest in peace. I know his brother, so there's that.
Nice.
Sorry, I don't. Gerrit does. He told me to say that.
Yes,
yep.
And which is weird because I neither myself nor Kevin know that gentleman, and that's fine. Either way is fine.
Yeah.
Flowers still bloom in the morning. Worms are still eaten by birds in the morning. A lot of things happen in the morning.
But a lot of things happen at
breakfast.
Night. Oh.
Yeah, that does happen. I don't really crack eggs to make breakfast at night. I don't really think worms are eaten by birds. I don't know why we're talking about this. Let's move on.
Yes.
So here's the thing about horror movies, okay? We were talking about this. Gerrit and I were talking about this. About how Freddy vs. Jason came out in 2003.
So you talked to Gerrit.
Yes. And then actually, okay, let me start over, Jarren. Gerrit and Kevin were talking about this and then relayed all of this to me. And now I'm relaying it to both you, Jarren, and the audience.
Perfect.
So,
but technically, Kevin and Gerrit are in the audience. Isn't that crazy?
They all. I mean, they're probably not going to listen to this shit. They're fucking.
No.
They have way too many things going on. They like to lay down a lot, and they like to, not do anything because quarantine is happening. So, anyway, how many movies have come out in each respective franchise of the Friday the 13th series and the Nightmare on Elm Street series?
12.
Since Freddy vs. Jason came out.
Both.
One of each. And they were both
remakes. Yep.
Yes, sir. And that's interesting because it was a cash cow.
Well,
in the 80s.
In the 80s. That's the thing. Is like each one were, both had their heights. And I think Nightmare 4 was probably the height of the Nightmare franchise. And then Friday the 13th, it was probably, I want to say the first one made the most money out of all of them. I think 3 was a big hit, and I think 4 might have brought it more, maybe 4 was the biggest. But then the 5th one
was
happened.
Still successful.
They're all still successful, but then...
Yeah, because they're so cheaply produced. That's one of the major themes, I think, of all of this.
Yeah. So, and then it gets to 8, and then Paramount sold it to New Line. And then New Line had both Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger, like Nightmare on Elm Street, at the same time. But they were trying to do a match like Freddy versus Jason back in the 90s. I think even the 80s. It was teased at the end of Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. And also, this is a little known fact. Everyone knows it, but this is a little tidbit. They couldn't call it Friday the 13th Part 9 because they didn't own the title Friday the 13th. So they had to change it to Jason Goes to Hell.
The final Friday.
The final Friday. Ah, interesting. So that's the reason that Jason X is called Jason X and not Friday the 13th Part 10. Jason X, Jason 10.
It's so funny. I actually did not know that. I always thought
you
Jason X. No, I really didn't. I thought Jason X was called Jason X because it's like it sounds cool. I'm putting up quotations here. Like our studio is like, hey, it's 2001. People love the X's, so we're gonna put Jason X in there.
So when did Final Friday come out?
I think it was 91. Am I there?
You're frozen.
Happened?
Am I frozen on yours?
You're not frozen. I'm
okay,
back.
Now you're frozen. Hey, welcome back.
Now I'm back.
Yeah.
I want to say like 90, like between 91 and 93, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
About right.
So, because Jason Takes Manhattan was 89. Paramount then sells it to... Man, we should do this on Something Serial. This should be a Something Serial.
I don't know what you're talking about because my name's Richard, but I like your thought. And I think this is good. It's a good foray. I mean,
I think so.
I think it's good. Like, let's just jump in and we'll see where it goes. There's
Okay.
only like Alex Plotkowski that listens to this anyways. He likes horror movies.
He knows. He can jump in.
Yeah.
So I will pull up. Now I'm on the computer.
The date that it came out?
Jason Goes to Hell. 93. Good job.
93, the same year that Jurassic Park came out. Now, which one is more remembered in the public consciousness?
Jurassic Park, for sure.
What? No, it's... I was setting you up so we could continue talking about our subject. It's obviously Jason Goes to Hell because there's that iconic scene where that lady is making burgers and taking little dots out of the burgers to make it look like a hockey mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's iconic.
Anyway, so that
didn't
movie,
find that amusing, audience.
So Jason Goes to Hell ends with the, funny enough, Kane Hodder's hand coming up, and he plays Jason. He is playing Freddy Krueger, grabbing the mask and pulling it under. So he gets to play both Freddy and Jason.
That's crazy. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I did not know that either.
He'll tell you 1,000 times over about it on every fucking special and commentary.
He also has a tattoo on his lower lip on the inside.
Yeah, he loves being Jason, even though he's the worst Jason. So
he's not very good. He's not very good.
Who's your favorite Jason?
I mean, Ken Kersinger, probably, from Freddy vs. Jason.
Interesting. Is it because he's so tall?
Frankly, I only know two of them by name. And Kane Hodder's in the majority of the movies, and he's like a very wooden performer. And I know there's not much to the performance, but he literally is just
Yeah.
You know how people have it in their mind, this stereotypical view of how a serial killer walks in these movies, like in a slasher movie? He perfected that, but it's not good. And that's why all other slasher movies are bad, because they modeled it off after his, I am walking and not moving performance.
They're just robots.
Yeah, it's just stupid. Which, I mean, there are obviously franchises that feature a running killer, like Scream, but that's, I guess, more of a subverting of horror movies. And Freddy doesn't need to run. Michael Myers doesn't run, but it doesn't seem to... He still seems physical somehow. I don't know.
It's because he's just always standing there, and when he is rushing at you, he rushes. And it's not like a... I don't know. I should watch the first one again, because I feel like anytime you see him, he's kind of just stationary and then just walking. He's a hulking figure and lurching. But it's real fast when he's going in the closet, right? When Jamie Lee Curtis is on the ground.
Yeah.
He's fucking going in there quickly.
Because he's like a normal human.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Jason thing is just I get it. He's a zombified, thing.
But he wasn't at first.
No, he wasn't. But Kane Hodder didn't play him until episode.
What is this, Star Wars?
It might as well be. They're both
they're all
bad
terrible.
towards the end. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. That's when Kane Hodder takes over.
Or part 7. I don't really know if you're trying to be cool there with the chapters, but it's part.
Yeah. So, well, it's interesting that it's part. We've talked about sequel names before because it's 1, which is Friday the 13th, and then part 2, part 3, the final chapter, part 5. Part 6, Part 7, Part 8, and then they
the
abandon
final
parts.
Friday.
Yeah,
it goes from final chapter to final Friday. You can't have it both ways, guys. It's like Final Destination, fucking going from the Final Destination to Final Destination 5. You can't.
Yeah.
You used your trick too early, you stupid assholes. Come on. You know you're gonna make another one. These are money makers.
Well, dude, that's the thing too. Is that's another series that hasn't had. Okay, well. Let's cover these, and we'll get to that.
I know. I feel like there's a lot to get to all of a sudden.
So we've broken in 93. That's Jason Goes to Hell. Yeah. Then in 91, I just pulled it up. We have Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, which is interesting because that's also one where 5 was so heavily cut by the censors. The Dream Child. It was so heavily cut by the censors. It at least had a cohesive timeline. Friday the 13th, or I'm sorry, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 5, I mean, they were all slashed to pieces by critics. Every movie from every fucking... So you're never looking at what the critics say. It's only the amount of money that it's making.
Right.
And then,
But they had a storyline that followed through each and every movie.
Yes.
Friday the 13th had some parts of stories, but they didn't really follow through too often.
Well, they only follow through 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6 as well. Because 5 is a copycat killer, but 4, 5, and 6 all follow Tommy Jarvis.
That's
and then
true.
7 is where we go crazy by the girl that's like telekinetic.
The telekinetic girl. God, what a terrible idea.
Fucking awful. But that's also the entry of Kane Hodder. And then 8 is him being at the bottom of the lake again, and then getting resurrected by a power line. And then he goes in the yacht. And then that's when Paramount says bye-bye. So now it's New Line.
I gotta just point out here real quick.
Go ahead.
Something I never really thought about. Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 5. I mean, they were like, those are the main entries of that storyline.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And that took longer to create than the first 8 Friday the 13th movies. And it's like, does that make sense, right? And so
that was 9 years in Friday, and then 84 to
91, right?
89.
89 was Dream Child.
Freddy's Dead is 91.
Okay. So it's just kind of funny that they popped out an additional couple movies. They did have a couple years head start, but the quality started dipping especially low by the 7th one.
Yeah.
Whereas the quality for Nightmare was relatively decent, honestly, through all of them.
Yeah.
Gotta say it.
I mean, I think when you come down to it, that's the better franchise because it has... It has effects and imagination. Yes. And then Halloween, which we'll get to later in the section, but that is also one that has a storyline, but it is not cohesive. I mean, out of all of these, I think that Nightmare on Elm Street has the most cohesive storyline until Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Because that one was another example of them trying to kill off a cash cow. And it's like, fucking why, though? Like, why do you want to end it? You're clearly making money. And both entries, anytime they try and end it, it's like the worst thing possible.
I don't get that from a producer's point of view. Like, if you're
Except Final Chapter. That one's good. 4. Friday the 13th 4.
But, like, if you're a producer of these movies, and it's the 80s, and you're doing mountains of cocaine, and you're like, oh, my God, we can literally make this for, like, I don't know how much they were made for, like $1 million at the most, something. I don't know. And they're raking in, like, 10 times as much. Or not even 10 times, you know, I don't want to exaggerate. But, like, more than that. Like, a lot more enough to keep the production line going. And it's like, why would you intentionally try to end the instigator of the chaos? It's the same situation that happened with Saw in Saw 3. They're trying to be extra shocking by killing off John Kramer, and it's like, dude, you know you're going to be making one every Halloween for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. Why not save that ace up your sleeve for, like, later?
Well, it's because they probably had 4 planned, and then 4, they're like, well, we don't know. Because you'll notice that 4 isn't the worst in the series. It's totally 5 and 7. Because... yes, the Saw series is another example that we'll get to.
Yeah.
But,
maybe.
I don't know. Maybe we can talk about it now. Because there's 7 consecutive years of Saw movies. And then they took a break. And then made Jigsaw.
Like 6 years later? 7 years later? 8 years
don't know.
later?
But I feel like there's more movies in that canon. Like, we have more recently had a Jigsaw movie than we have a Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th.
Yeah, see, that's where I think this is what piqued my interest. Because for me, the big 3 are Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. Those are like 100%. The originals from like the late 70s into the 80s.
Yep. And
since Freddy vs. Jason came out, the culmination of all of that sort of energy, since that happened, we have had a remake of Nightmare on Elm Street and a remake of Friday the 13th, and that's it.
Well, we've had remakes of Halloween. We've had remakes. We've had a remake
a sequel to a remake.
When did Halloween Resurrection come out? 2002?
Ooh, yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I want to say that sounds about right. But
2002.
Halloween Resurrection and Freddy vs. Jason were all kind of piggybacking off of that whole Scream renaissance.
Yes.
You know, where everyone is always all of a sudden like, oh, Scream made a lot of money. Let's make Halloween H2O. Oh, wow. And it kind of like, there was like a 5-year period where all of a sudden like slashers were coming out. Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
And, geez, there's got to be. I mean, Final Destination came out in that time.
Well, also there's Freddy's Dead in 91. Then they took a 3-year break to make Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is like a meta narrative. And then Scream came out right after that in 97, Halloween H2O 98, and then that's like, you know, the Scream 2 and the Halloween Resurrection and Freddy vs. Jason, all that stuff. Jason X is in there as well in 2001.
I do want to make a quick
Right?
note. I think Scream came out in 96 and Scream 2 came out in 97.
96 in Scream, yep, and then Scream 2 was in 97. Yeah, so a year. Interesting.
But yeah, so like that kind of led to everyone's like, oh wait, we should like resurrect these franchises that have at that time only been dormant for like 5 years, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny to think, like, I personally would put probably Freddy on top of the pile completely, probably even over like Halloween and Friday the 13th. That's my personal opinion. And yet they've only had one thing come out since Freddy vs. Jason. It was a terrible, terrible remake. So
it is the worst spiritless remake
it's awful.
Ever.
And, you know, and in that amount of time, we have had 3 Halloween movies with 2 more being filmed back to back. So that's 5. I mean, there are 5 confirmed. And then we've had a Critters movie, a direct to. Yep, and we had a TV show dedicated to Critters. That was the other franchise I wanted to talk about a little bit because it's such an obscure one, I feel like.
Yeah, that and Tremors.
Yeah, Tremors is still going, like literally still going with Michael Gross from the original cast. It's crazy. And Leprechaun.
Yeah, Leprechaun.
Like all of these movies that like came out that had their roots in the 70s, 80s, and I guess with Tremors the early 90s.
But it's like, what do you think separates those things? Is it all licensing issues? Is it, you know, returning cast? I mean, what is it? Because
dude,
with Freddy, Robert Englund was Freddy Krueger, right?
See, I don't think that's an issue.
But I don't think it is either. I think you can find someone to fill those shoes, but it's like, make a good fucking movie. Because there's been so many Jasons and there's been so many Michaels. There's been one Freddy, and then you have a new Freddy, and he's received fine, but the movie was just utter dog shit.
Yeah. It's really weird because, see, this reminds me of like how studios handle movies like Batman. Mm-hmm. Or even James Bond. You just keep recasting the character. It's a franchise. Like, just keep it going. And yet they have this character who was super popular and is simply done at this point.
Yeah.
And there's not really as much of a following. I don't see, my prediction currently at this stage of my life is like, even if they were to have some kind of revival, I just don't see it being that popular. Like, they might come out with a couple of movies, but it might be another, like, you know, 10 or 15 or 20 years until they're like, let's try this again.
You know why? Because it hasn't stayed in the lexicon. When you have multiple movies in the 80s, and then, like, what was Jason? Was it one movie in the 90s?
Jason just had Jason Goes to Hell in 91, right? Or 93.
I think it was 93. So that's one movie, not well received. Not a lot of people saw it. Jason X in 2001 or 2, I think it was released late. Hold on.
Well, that was released, I feel like it was 01 also.
It was 01, yep. And then after that, Freddy vs. Jason. So you got 2 movies where he plays heel to Freddy in Jason, or Freddy vs. Jason. And then a remake at the end of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all fucking teenagers, obviously. So the only people that are seeing it are dedicated fans, and then people like you and me. But people younger, I don't think anyone's really interested in horror movies anymore.
See,
there's a resurgence with Blumhouse, but it's only with Michael Myers and Halloween because there were so many over the course of a certain amount of time.
Right. First of all, it's Bloom or is it Blum? I always thought it was
I don't
Blum.
fucking care. I don't
Okay.
know. He makes such shit movies along with his really great ones.
I know.
Truth or
It's
Dare.
mostly bad. It's mostly bad.
It's mostly bad, yeah.
No, I was going to say the same thing, which is when we were kids, we were riding that tail end of the success of these franchises into the early 2000s. And something that we never realized once it became 2020 and we became adults is that these are not popular movies at all. Like we would watch the DVDs in the early 2000s and we'd watch the special features and we'd be like, yeah, like I know all about these. These are awesome.
And no one else but us cared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it was you and me.
That is why it's so hard for us, or at least me, to accept that it's simply not going to happen anytime soon for like an actual, good remake or continuation in some form.
But that's the thing that baffles me, because they're like, you can clearly do a great thing with Evil Dead, Ash vs. Evil Dead, all 3 seasons, fucking top-notch, phenomenal, perfect.
Honestly, the remake is pretty solid too.
Didn't hate the remake. I'm not a big fan of it.
I mean, it's
different
not too bad.
thing. I liked Cabin in the Woods a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, I mean that's hilarious.
Yeah. But that's the vibe of what the first or the 3 were. I feel like it was it's very Evil Dead 2 harkening back is Cabin in the Woods. But regardless, I got tangled. Oh, Jarren's tangled up. There we go. Got it.
See, he knows what's going on. I thought you meant the Disney film, which I watched, which is not bad. It's not bad.
The Disney film of what?
Tangled?
Oh, okay.
Because you said Tangled.
I never saw it.
But you just said it.
Yeah, because Tangled is a word. It's not just a movie.
I know, and then I was like, yeah, and I saw that movie, and then I winked.
I was like, is there a Jarren in a movie? What are we talking about?
Oh no, we're talking about Tangled, the movie
Rapunzel
and the
story.
Yeah, and the fact that your headphones were tangled. Anyways, okay. So we have established a couple of things, okay? To me.
What have we established, Dick?
To me, it seems like Freddy and Jason are very popular characters, at least in the horror franchises of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also established there are multiple other franchises that came out of the 80s, such as Critters, Halloween, Leprechaun, I guess fucking like Puppet Master or whatever the fuck.
They're still making those. But that's like, those are independent
Hellraiser.
people. Yeah, Hellraiser, which got,
You say independent people. See, this is where my next thought is like, well, why are these movies still getting sequels and remakes whereas the more popular ones seemingly are left behind? I mean, Chucky is still having movies.
That's because one person owns the property, and they keep creating those. Like Don Cascarelli, is that his name?
He did Phantasm.
Phantasm, that's right.
You're thinking of Don Mancini.
Don Mancini. He's the one that does Chucky. So the 2 Dons...
Who knocks it out of the park like every time, I'd like to add.
Yeah, those 2 Dons are still making movies in their respective franchises because they own the properties. They'll get financiers to, back the, money aspect of it, but I'm pretty sure that they're able to do that and figure out like video on demand releases and stuff like that, because that's where the platform has gone. With Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, I feel like they are all still hung. It's the same thing with right before Spectre came out. They were having a court case over the name Spectre, the character Blofeld, and all that stuff. They finally they got the money, they got the rights to it, and therefore it ended up in the next fucking movie for no apparent reason. So the moment they got it, it becomes this fan service bullshit. But it's the same kind of hang up where these franchises are hung up in different, pockets, I guess. So it's not like Sean S. Cunningham still owns the rights to the thing. He probably sold it off a long time ago, and parts of it get fractured and blah, blah, blah. And then Platinum Dunes, that was Jerry Bruckheimer's company, right?
Or was it Michael Bay?
Michael Bay. They're the same person. So Michael Bay has Platinum Dunes. He buys Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, that's another one that's had
And
a ton more.
A ton more,
franchise
but for
things.
fucking why? Because that was Tom Hooper's movie, and
Toby,
sorry. Who's Tom Hooper?
Tom Hooper isn't he the guy who directed Cats?
Yeah. Could you imagine
I think it is.
if Leatherface just came through and sliced up all those cats?
And then this is the opening scene. Okay, he's like, "Oh, I killed somebody."
Wow.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with his movies, but they're extreme close-ups of people all the time.
They're extreme garbage.
Oh, ba-doom.
Wish I had to fart again.
I don't.
So, yes, but those are so independent that who released Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one?
I'm pretty sure that was just independent.
But there had to be a production company that distributed. Yeah, distributing.
Let's see here. Distributor for original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Let's see if I can get it.
Bryanston Distributing Company. Is that right?
I don't know.
Oh my God! I have this poster. It's worth $500.
Wow.
I don't think that's amazing. I don't know if it's an original though. In fact,
Probably
I know
not.
it's not. So it's probably worth $3.
Would you
Never
get
mind.
yours at Suncoast?
I got it at the other place.
Oh,
There really
FYE.
Yeah, FYE. Oh, I remember Suncoast. Oh, geez. That's where I got Tomb Raider, the first DVD that was ever purchased in my home.
Wow, you bought the first one?
Yeah, it was $30.
Jesus.
I didn't buy it. It was like my mom bought it or my dad bought it or something. But yeah.
I think my stepmom bought the first one, and she bought Striking Distance.
That's better than Tomb Raider.
So yes, I think the big problem with these things is it's lawyering up, it's money, it's who owns the franchise and that kind of stuff. And wasn't LeBron James trying to do Friday the 13th?
I'm gonna go ahead and say no on this one. He's doing a Space Jam movie, and I can see why you would mix up Bugs Bunny with Jason.
No, it's not. Maybe it's not LeBron. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I understand.
Sorry.
I'm just kind of waiting to just hear you dig yourself out of the silence is all.
Well, I mean, it's whatever. It's going to be fine. I'm going to figure it out, and you guys are going to be like, oh, okay. And, we're going to do it.
So, the real question is, okay.
Found it.
Oh, really?
This was news from 2018.
Yeah, but in 2020 terms, that's like 15 years ago.
I know. I'm just saying. This is what I had heard, so this is true. After the success of Halloween, Jason could finally be heading back to theaters. Well, that didn't happen. This is 2018. Friday the 13th reboot coming from LeBron James, an original films writer. So you can read all about that.
The original films writer is probably like so out of touch with things. They're like 87.
I agree. Victor Miller is the guy's name. But
I thought he was dead.
Following the reboot almost a decade ago, the series fell into a legal battle that has seen the rights to the original script returned to the first film screenwriter Victor Miller. So now Victor Miller owns the rights. The legal battle was fought largely between Miller and the producer and director of the original film, Sean Cunningham. That fucking cunt. Who hired Miller to write and screen.
Oh, I get it. Cunningham.
Yeah, Cunningham.
Hey, that's an insult from the movie Christine.
Cunningham?
Yeah.
Huh.
For all those listeners out there. For the 3 listeners out there.
So, I was right. Legal battle.
Yeah.
But it's Platinum Dunes type bullshit. So I don't know. I mean, Michael Bay. Well, he also had Texas Chainsaw, and they pumped out a bunch of remakes. Sequels,
well, they only did
reboots.
2 of those. I mean, from Platinum Dunes,
Then
because
who bought it?
I don't know. I mean, there was Texas Chainsaw 3D, which was stupid, and then there was Leatherface, which I had never saw. Was it called Leatherface? No, or was it called something else?
Well, there's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, and then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, and then hold on.
Texas Chainsaw
Texas
3D.
Chainsaw 3D.
And then Leatherface.
Leatherface in 2017.
And that's it. Although there are 2 Leatherfaces, there are 2 Texas Chainsaw movies named Leatherface. The third one is called Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. This is all very confusing, I just realized. My goodness.
And then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, that was 5 years after Leatherface. But there were still 2 movies in 95, and Jason only got 1?
Dude, it's really interesting. Like, I don't get it. Like, these... I also don't get, like, you know... It is so easy to make these stupid movies.
It really is.
It's so fucking
really
easy.
Is.
That's what it comes down to for me is, like, I'm hearing, you know, we're talking about, like, I was talking about how, like, Critters has movies and Leprechaun has movies. These franchises have fans. Like, they pump them out for, like, $13, and then a fan will, like, watch it. I mean, who, you know, and that's fine. If they're poor quality, like, it doesn't really matter because it's all about the dollar, which is, again, fine.
Here's the thing, too. This is why so many of those movies became so big. Rewatchability. The rewatchability factor of the movies is so good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just make it good, and people will see it multiple... I saw Baby Driver 3 times in the theater, I think. I fucking loved watching that movie. The experience of it. It was great. Avengers Endgame, saw it twice. I will see movies multiple times in the theaters. That's what you have to do. But if you make a shit movie in a franchise, people aren't going to see it again. They'll see it once. That's the reason you have diminishing returns.
Did you ever see Dark Phoenix?
Yeah, it sucked.
I didn't see it. I forgot it existed. I'm not even kidding. I thought when I was reading, like,
to forget.
Well, I thought I was reading about, like, the biggest bombs of last year, and they kept talking about Dark Phoenix, and, like, I literally was like, oh shit, I forgot. I thought X-Men Apocalypse was the last one.
Nope, Apocalypse.
That's how out of it I am. I haven't seen Apocalypse either. I haven't seen Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix. Isn't that crazy? My, like, 15-year-old self would have for sure seen both of those movies. So here's the thing. The franchises are continuing at a certain pace, and I'm getting older, and I'm growing in a different direction than the franchises are, when what really should be happening is we should be growing together. And I blame the producers for not tapping into the potential of trying to lure in viewers like me and instead just pumping out crap.
Well, what they're doing is they're trying to pump out crap that young people are going to like. And the reason that young people like things is because they're relatable. But if you have a bunch of older people that are seeing a movie, like in a movie, then young people aren't going to see it, which I think is fucking stupid because they're R-rated. Like, just because you make it PG-13 doesn't mean that a child is going to be able to go see a Friday the 13th movie. So make it balls to the wall gory. Make it for everybody to enjoy. I mean, general consensus is that people do like the Friday the 13th remake.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
I think that's the general consensus.
It is. It really is.
General consensus, people don't like Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Why?
Yeah.
Because the only good scene in that fucking movie is the beginning diner scene, and the rest is trash. Because that's the only original vision in the fucking movie. It's
interesting you say that, because I remember we watched both of them before I moved to Minneapolis, and I completely agree with you on everything. I think this is one of those ridiculous discussions where, like, if you have no idea what we're talking about, you're kind of like, oh, like, crappy horror franchises, whatever. But if you really, like, sit down and, like, watch them, I don't know about maybe I don't know what did define. I don't know much about definitions, Gerrit, because, you know, words are all so fluid and things change so much.
I'm not Gerrit, I'm Jarren. I was just
Shut up, Jarren. Damn it, I broke the joke. How long did it take? It was almost an hour. No, wait, I didn't break anything. I was joking. Everything is a joke. Did you know that you can say anything and still be elected president? So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Perfect. I'll write your name in.
Great. Don't do that. Don't waste your vote
Dick.
on Richard. I'm Dick. I was gonna be like, who the hell is Richard? No last name. Okay. Yes. Yes. What was I saying?
Definitions, define.
Okay.
Other people listening in, watching these movies.
They wouldn't understand. Like, if I had no interest in this, I would be like, who gives a shit? But, like, in a strictly, like, movie critic sense, and, like, in an analysis sense, in a sense of analysis, if you literally watch Friday the 13th remake back-to-back with the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, one is much, much demonstrably better than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Easily, like, this is better, this part's better, this is better, the story's better, the cinematography's better. Well, I don't know about cinematography.
Cinematography's way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cinematography wasn't awful in Nightmare except for the end, and it's just the direction is just shit.
It's the script. It's the script
as well. It's just this fucking carbon copy remake with like other shit thrown in, and you're like, why didn't you just go with the other shit?
Dude, movies like that are so weird to me because they hire a director from music videos, which is fine because they have a great visual sense, and I mean, obviously, in some cases, they have a great sense of story, also, like Spike Jonze and David Fincher. But
it worked for Marcus Nispel.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like there are examples of it being like, you know, the director can be good visually based on prior work in the music video industry, which seems to be like a farm for these sorts of horror movies, because what the production company wants is a horror movie that is like what they want. And they're like, okay, this is what we want. We're hiring you because you have experience to bring it to the screen, but you better fucking follow the orders that we give you, you know?
And they did the same thing with Sam Raimi for Spider-Man 3, so.
Exactly, which is, I mean, yeah, that's a great example of how that goes, honestly. Because there is a certain sense of visual ingenuity based on whoever you get to direct your movie, but it's going to be kind of shit if they have a bad script. And sometimes they can work around that, but sometimes they're like, I don't know what to do with this.
I just hate the idea that the people without vision have the money.
Isn't that crazy? But, like, isn't that the fucking perfect metaphor for life?
I mean, that's why these movies should be talked about more, is because it is the perfect metaphor. You have the people that are in the higher ups that try, like Bob Shea for Nightmare from New Line. I mean, he single-handedly ruined what could have been great. If Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare wasn't Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, and they actually continued the story after 5 and kept going with it, it could have been a good movie. But that movie is such trash because it falls apart. Like, I was listening to Halloweenies. It's a podcast where they've analyzed Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and now they're in Friday the 13th. They were talking about how distant Freddy's Dead feels from
the other ones,
the Dream Child, because 89 was the Dream Child, that was the 5th one, and then Freddy's Dead is 91, that was the
only
6th
2
one.
years,
only 2 years, and they feel fucking light years apart.
Yeah, they do.
It's crazy.
They do. I think like it because Freddy's Dead, it feels almost like it sort of acknowledges, but it also takes place like years later, and it's like a warped reality, and it's almost like a form of fan fiction or something. Like, well, it's recognizably Freddy while still completely not in the same realm as the other ones.
No, it tries to be ahead of its time, and it's behind its time. Like, that's the reason the other ones work so well, is because they feel timeless. They feel gritty 80s, but there's so many movies that you can watch from the 80s that feel gritty and are timeless. Blade Runner feels timeless.
Yeah.
And even though it's supposed to take place in the future, it still feels 80s, but it's like a grind. It's great aesthetically. Freddy's Dead feels like it's on a set in the 90s. And it feels like Tom Arnold and fucking Roseanne Barr are in it, and Johnny Depp's got a cameo. Ponytail. And Breckin Meyer's ponytail. And it's like there's some heavy things that are in it. Like there's one good scene I can think of offhand with the guy who's deaf or whatever.
Yeah.
His death is great. It's good.
But they also, that movie also completely redefined the rules that were in place in the universe. That's another thing I'll never really quite understand about any movie where you have a set of rules established, then you're just like, it doesn't matter. We can do whatever.
Well, it's because they have to figure out a way to kill him, right? And end everything. Because the idea, like, both the ones that end him or not him, but Jason and Freddy, both are New Line, and both are like, we need to kill the franchise.
So dumb.
Why would you get... here's why I don't understand. Here's why I don't understand New Line.
You could have a Lord of the Rings style epic between these people.
I know, and New Line also, for people that don't know, New Line is the one that has, all of the fucking Lord of the Rings. And it's funny that because with those ones, they're like, no, let's stretch them out. Let's make 3 of these, and then Peter.
Yeah, let's make 3 hobbits.
Well, we only have to make 2. No, let's stretch it out and make more money. Let's make 3. Why don't you stretch it out and make more money with the fucking all of the things we've been talking about that you own?
What they should have done.
Oh. I was just going to say, I don't understand how you get a property and then try and kill it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I was going to say, I mean, it's funny that we bring up Lord of the Rings because Peter Jackson was originally hired to write a script for another Nightmare on Elm Street sequel.
It was the 6th one, Freddy's Dead.
Which sounds amazing, which is where people would like... wasn't it they took drugs to get into dreams to beat him up because
they took Hypnosil.
No one was scared of him anymore, so they would just like go in there to abuse him, and he was powerless to do anything because no one was scared anymore.
Yeah, amazing.
And it's hilarious. Like that's perfect. And you have a great idea like that, and you don't let it. It's so weird to me how history develops. I mean, it's literally developing around us all the time.
Well,
and it's just like, Jesus, you could have just done this. You could have said yes instead of no.
It's just another example of how the money, they have to follow where the money tells them to go. So the idea of making Freddy weak, they're like, no one's going to see that. Meanwhile, you and me,
we'll just kill him.
Fucking clamoring for it.
Yeah.
I would kill to see that. Are you kidding? And the odds that it would be good are pretty high because it's from fucking Peter Jackson. But hindsight's 2020. They don't know how great he is.
But at the same time, he has some
chance.
Independent horror movies from New Zealand that were well received. It's like, oh, this guy's got like a quirky, like Tim Burton-y thing going on, like when he was a younger person, and it's like just.
You would have that rewatchability factor. I mean, that's what's missing from so many of these things. I mean, if I had more money when I was a kid, I would have seen Friday the 13th again in the theater. Right? That one was good. I wouldn't have seen A Nightmare again.
Yeah, I would have walked out if Nightmare were on again. That movie was so bad.
I remember hating it in the theater. I was like, I fucking hate this movie. It had no balls.
It was, it did not. It was so bad. And it's so weird to come from the same production company, too. I mean, that's so crazy that you can have. I mean, it's the same thing you're talking about by, like, Bob Shea getting the rights to both franchises only to try to kill them off as quickly as possible. It's like, bro, what are you doing? You're the head of a production company. Produce more.
Yeah.
I mean, use James Bond as an example. Continue these things. Just continue.
There was a famous rights issue with James Bond in the 90s because 89 was License to Kill. That was Timothy Dalton. Have you ever heard about the third proposed movie with Timothy Dalton? It's supposed to come out in like 92 or something.
I vaguely remember hearing a little bit about it.
I don't remember, but I would love to look it up again. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it's out there.
I only remember the details you said, which is like there was a third proposed one.
Yeah. But he wasn't the role anymore, and then they came out with GoldenEye in 95. It's like one of the biggest gaps in the franchise.
Which now seem to happen all the time.
All the time. With everything. And it's just because there's not enough money in it. MGM famously only really puts out James Bond movies, but they're still notoriously cheap trying to make them. And then, and they're very expensive to make, the James Bond movies.
I was going to say, I've not heard that because they're usually like $250 million budgets, it seems like.
Well, I mean, they have to spend that amount of money to make the movie, but they're also notoriously cheap, like trying to make it. Like they're still trying to cut corners with all the things that they're doing. They're not just like throwing money at, catering trucks or whatever the fuck. Like they're still trying to really tighten their budget while spending that amount of money.
Well, they're doing a horrible job somewhere because holy shit.
Well, it's also the amount of script rewrites that they'll have to do for like Spectre. Like that makes it so much more expensive, even though you didn't have to do that shit to ruin the movie.
They're trying to... Yeah, I know. Like, you're right, though. I cannot fathom They are trying to make them all the same.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Because that's what they think people want. Because they're so out of touch that they're like, oh, well, what did people like about this movie? Let's do all the opposites of that. Because I think that's really what people liked. No, that's not what people liked about Skyfall. People liked Skyfall because it was fucking different.
Yeah, it's funny.
Don't follow the same tropes.
We used to talk about which one was better, Casino Royale or Skyfall, and you said Casino Royale, and I said
still
Skyfall,
think it's Casino.
even though I really like Casino Royale. I watched them both recently within the last few months, and you are right. Casino Royale is much better.
Yeah.
And Skyfall is literally just a James Bond movie. Like, it's a good one. It is a good one, and it's probably still one of my favorites. It is a solid movie, but, like, it is 100% just a normal Bond movie with, like, extra, frosting on top.
Well, it's visionary, and I think, like, you can... It's Sam Mendes, whatever his name is, making a James Bond movie. Spectre doesn't feel like that. Spectre feels like I'm here against my will making a movie because they want me to.
Which is
Skyfall,
so sad.
It's like they gave him creative control over how the movie looks and everything, so it's a beautiful film. And it has some balls. Spoiler alert for Skyfall, killing M, that's some balls.
Also, being the first one to take Bond back to his like family home and kind of talking more about his childhood.
Yes, that's definitely different. So it has that going for it. But what they did was explore that more for Spectre.
Yeah,
and that was
they
the
doubled
mistake.
down, and it's like, dude, we just saw this, and then they add in the superfluous character of Andrew Scott over in MI6, like, and then they also. I hated that movie, man. It's fun to like. You know what's crazy? That movie makes every Roger Moore movie better for me.
Wow.
Like, I really like Roger Moore movies now because at least they knew what they were. You know, Daniel Craig comes in and he's such a great Bond, and they're just wasting him. I mean, that's why I hope No Time to Die is good. I believe in the director, but it just looks.
I think it's gonna. Excuse me. I think it's going to be like Skyfall, where it's going to be a Bond movie, but it's also going to be, tying up loose ends, figuring some of this stuff out because they have to, because everything's connected now.
God, I don't know, because I didn't like that Madeline Swan character. I thought that was stupid. I thought all that was really dumb.
I know.
And then she's in it again. I'm like, ugh.
I know that, but I think what they're doing is they're giving Kerry Fukushima. What's his name?
You were really close. It's Kerry Fukunaga. Although he's credited as Kerry Joji Fukunaga. Yes. I don't know why you would include his middle name, because Kerry Fukunaga is a really cool name.
Well, he's an assassin.
Okay.
There's 3 names.
Right. Lee Harvey Oswald.
CIA guy with gun.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
You mean Tommy Lee Jones? Because he was in JFK.
Oh, he was. He was. I don't know anyone else.
Joe Alopesci Pesci. Alopesci. Joe Alopesci.
It's like he has alopecia. The man has no hair, which is fine.
In JFK, Joe Pesci played the guy with like the no eyebrows or whatever.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So alopecia.
Oh, man.
Joe Alopesci.
So you were going for it. Oh, jeez.
That's pretty good.
It wasn't awful. It wasn't awful. That's the best I can say.
What was I saying? So yeah, but Casino Royale is it's like GoldenEye in that it's Martin Campbell directed it, and it heightens Bond. It brings it into a new era. So it was him bringing it into the 90s, and it was him technically bringing it into the 2000s. Because Die Another Day is such a what the fuck is happening right now.
I love that movie. It's great. It's so
bad.
Good. It's so good.
Bad.
You know what's funny about this? Martin Campbell, he brought it into the 2000s, but it was really like Batman Begins that like really did it. And I also don't understand how he has so many stinkers under his belt since then, too. Like, I guess I'm only thinking of Green Lantern off the top of my head, but it's just
That's
so
a studio interference.
But, like, isn't James Bond pretty much the definition of studio interference? I mean, look at Spectre.
But here's the thing with the James Bond franchise is if it's studio mandated, I think there's a big difference between mandating and interference. I think with GoldenEye, they're so excited to get back into the role of things where they're like, we got a great script, we got a good director, I think they'll be good. Then Tomorrow Never Dies, they're like, wow, GoldenEye was such a big hit. I think we know what we're doing. I think we know what we can do. And they get those fucking hands clasping together, and then they ruin the fucking franchise again. Oh. And then The World Is Not Enough, they're like, okay, we need to go back to a GoldenEye vibe. We need to get, like, you know, 2 villains. We got to get a woman
One step
villain.
forward, 2 steps back.
That's exactly what they do. And then Die Another Day, they're like, okay, we definitely got it now, motherfuckers.
Yeah, that was 1 step forward, 8 steps back.
Yes, it is so bad, so outlandish. And they're like, 40 years, we got to put everything together. We got it.
Oh my god. And that movie is so much better than it used to be, because I used to hate that movie because it was so bad.
It's so fun to watch. It's
so fun. That's the thing.
Bad.
It's so fun to watch. It is so bad, but it's so fun to watch. And it it is seriously so entertaining. I cannot tell you enough how entertaining it is to watch. Because it starts out, I mean,
North Korea, surfing into North Korea.
There's a
C4 and diamonds in their fucking
Oh my god.
boards.
No. Before that, they have a motherfucking chase scene on hovercraft, which is like, what's up? And then they fucking have the audacity to kidnap Bond out of commission for like whatever, over a year. And you're like, oh shit, this got like really serious as he's getting stung with scorpions. and then James Bond self-willingly lowers his heart rate to escape from jail. And there's this lady nurse, and she's like looking at him through the glass, and he says a quip about how like, hey, like, no big deal, right? And she's just like, yeah, like, care that you're escaping right now. Even though he looks like a goddamn caveman. And, like, he's a potential, like, double agent. Like, they don't know where he's at after being imprisoned. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But it's so funny, too, because it is the same story as you would see in, like, a movie from the 60s, like a Bond movie from the 60s. Kind of.
It's like, I mean, it is a pretty outlandish story.
Yeah, but it is. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You mean launching like $1 billion worth of diamonds into space to create a giant mirror? That's not outlandish?
It seems like a 70s idea for me. It seems like a Diamonds Are Forever, like a we're on the cusp of a new actor. It's fucking killing the franchise.
I completely agree with you. I think 60s was a misspeaking, but I mean like that classic campy vibe with Roger Moore, I suppose, more specifically. Because right when he escapes from the ship at the beginning of the movie, he's like in Hong Kong, I think, and or somewhere like over there, and he
Jamaica, isn't it?
No, he starts out in an Asian country.
Oh, okay.
When he escapes from the ship initially, and he swims to a hotel that knows him, and the hotel manager is like working for Chinese special forces or something, and he's spying on James Bond, and he sends in a masseuse. And I was watching it and I was like, this is hilarious because this is just like something I'd see out of the 70s. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, Bond straight up surfed into North Korea like 16 minutes ago. So like, this is amazing. I could talk endlessly because I just watched this movie. It is hilarious. The CG is exquisitely
exquisitely bad.
And then you know what I noticed too? The whole, I hope you don't mind me going on a rant about this.
No, that's fine.
The whole, like, there's like a 40-minute sequence set in that ice palace. Like, it doesn't, I thought last time, like, from my memory, I was like, oh, yeah, that's the one with the ice palace, right? And then I'm watching, I'm like, oh, not only is it the one with the ice palace, it's like, it is the ice palace.
This movie is the ice palace.
Like, they're there and that's it. I mean, it is the end of the movie. And then there's an invisible... That's not even to talk about the invisible car. I mean...
Let's get to... I mean, I think on the next episode we could cover more James Bond stuff.
Oh, please. I could rant. I love it. I mean, I got to talk about Moonraker. I have a theory about Moonraker we should get to sometime.
Right here. I'm going to write that down for the next episode, just so
Okay.
people are like, you guys always forget what you're going to talk about.
Who says that?
No one has ever said that. It's always...
I was like, no one's... Because there's like one listener, and it's my cat. It's because I force your AirPods down her ears.
That's not nice.
I don't actually do that for all the animal rights people over there. That's awful.
I mean, the only animal rights thing would be your cat, if it's only one person listening.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Really quick, I
Yes.
remember reading this. People stormed the Capitol again today.
Yeah.
Of Lansing,
I saw.
of Michigan.
Great.
So there's that. They went inside
for
with
them.
guns.
Good job.
I know, they're great. But I want to wrap up this James Bond thing because, so Die Another Day killed the franchise, but then Martin Campbell comes back again and reignites it with Casino Royale because it's bringing it into a new era. And then once again, it's really good. It's well received. You got Chris Cornell doing the song. It's we're back, baby. And then Quantum of Solace. Let's give Mark Forster creative control of Vision. Probably a bad idea because the editing is just so piss poor with all of the action sequences.
So,
and then also the writer's strike. So Daniel Craig is helping write the movie.
so much of this can be excused by A, the writer's strike, and B, how action movies looked at the time.
Yes. Yep.
Because I don't think it was necessarily Mark Forster's fault that they were as shaky as they were. The second unit director worked on the Bourne movies.
Oh.
And besides that, I think there was a mandate at that time basically to make it look more quote unquote realistic, which would make it look more shaky, which is like what Bourne movies were.
But so what we have there is I was wrong. It's not a mandate, it's interference. That's where MGM comes in and they're like, we know what we need to do. We got it. Here we go. This is what you do. You do this.
I can see that, and it's funny too because it's a movie that really tries to break the mold of being a Bond movie by being short and revenge oriented, and it has that style of those mid 2000s action movies, and yet it still has a very Bond movie plot.
Yep.
You know.
Then you got Skyfall, Bond movie plot. Sam Mendes has a vision. Okay, you do what you want. And then comes Spectre. All right, we liked what you did. You're gonna do it again.
Even harder.
But we got the idea. This is what we're gonna do.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And they're like, well, we'll pay you more. So that's probably where all the budget went.
It's weird.
And now we've got No Time to Die. And I think, I mean, I have no fucking idea because it's unprecedented in our lifetimes at least, where we've had more than 4 movies with one actor.
Well,
because it's been 4 with Pierce Brosnan, and it was 4 with Daniel, and now it's 5. So I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
And it's crazy that it took 4 years to reboot between Die Another Day and Casino Royale, and it took 5 years between Spectre and No Time to Die.
Yeah.
What kind of world is this?
And that's halfway between what it was between License to Kill and GoldenEye, which was 6 years.
Crazy. I thought it was a long time between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. That was only 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's hilarious, though. Casino Royale is literally Batman Begins. Skyfall is literally The Dark Knight. Spectre is literally The Dark Knight Rises.
Yep.
I swear to you, I will die on this hill.
But it's just so interesting, these franchises. It all comes back to Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. It's all these legality hang-ups. It's what we think the money wants to do. It's the production heads that are like, this is what it's got to be. And it's like, you don't know the first thing about what the fuck it's got to be.
I feel like there's only one person in talking about this that seems to have cracked the code on sequels and franchises. And that's Richard Linklater with the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight series of movies.
Never saw him.
I have not either, which I know this is a really bad thing to end on.
But there's only 3 of them.
There are only 3, but they each... it is a franchise, and
Yeah.
they go in different directions while also staying true to what the characters are about.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are character studies.
Right, and that's fine, but that's what movies should be. That's what good movies are. They're character studies. I mean, Jaws is a good character study
That's
on
true.
A guy, a chief of police who's afraid of the water and who's trying to get away from like the big city crime shit going on.
It's true.
You know, I mean, that's what makes these movies memorable.
I love the idea that Jaws is just a sequel to The French Connection. And
That's great. I mean, I love it.
changes his name to Brody.
I mean, you can really look at it like that. I was actually watching a video about how Snowpiercer is a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
And that's Charlie Bucket all grown up.
Yeah, who's in charge of the train? He's Ed Harris.
Interesting.
Yep.
I haven't seen Snowpiercer.
Oh, you fudging mother lover. I think you should really watch it, and I'm going to tell you why. I think it's readily available on streaming.
I think it is, too. I'll watch it.
And also because it's a quarantine, and you have time to watch Extraction, fucker.
I did. Did you see it?
I want to. I have not seen it yet. I really want to watch it. Is it good?
I genuinely enjoyed it. I mean, spoiler for the episode, but yeah, I genuinely thought it was great. It was John Wick, but with Chris Hemsworth.
I like Chris Hemsworth. I wish
too.
they would make him have his Australian accent more often too, because
he did.
Why not? You know. But you should really watch. I have a recommendation for this. Better be good, because you guys are in quarantine, and it seems like you're doing a Netflix theme right now.
It's whatever we can watch streaming for free.
I think you should do Triple Frontier with Ben Affleck.
Is that the new one?
No, that came out last year. It's a Netflix streaming release, and it's it's one of those big movies. It's like Extraction, where it's like, but with Ben Affleck, and it's a totally different storyline. It's totally different. What I'm saying is like a Netflix action movie with a big major star.
Triple Frontier?
Yeah, and it's from the guy who did A Most Violent Year with Oscar Isaac, and All Is Lost with Robert Redford.
Okay.
And it's a movie that like isn't the most amazing thing I've ever seen, but somehow it was very enjoyable. And I really would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Especially given, follow that theme. You did Extraction. I know the one before that you did was
Train to Busan.
Which is on Netflix.
Yep.
Famously on Netflix for the people that have seen it, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly.
Great.
Because that's where I saw it. That's where I saw the stuff that I saw of it.
Just to wrap this episode up, did you have anything else to say about Nightmare and Freddy? I mean, we got 2 Halloween movies coming. I mean, why can't we have 2 other movies of different franchises coming?
I would watch them if they came out. I don't know what the hang-up is. You know what? I know we're trying to wrap up, and maybe this is a topic for another time, but I just got to say, I feel like a lot of this comes down to not just legalities, but a money issue. Like, who are these movies for? Mm-hmm. But time and time again, it has been proven you can make a movie for like $5 million, like a decent-looking, good movie for $5 million, and it'll make more than that. And it's like, just
Paranormal Activity.
Don't throw. Or I was going to say even the Halloween that came out in 2017 or 18, the newest
2018.
One?
It was super cheap.
It was super cheap. Like, and it looked great, honestly, and it made money. And it's like, dude, just do that. You don't have to like be, I don't know, doing blow off of the fucking contracts that you're signing. I don't understand what's going on here.
Well, why don't we get together and after all this is over and commission ourselves to write a Friday the 13th treatment and a Freddy treatment.
Friday the 13th, K.
Okay, we'll do that to pitch it, but we'll be like, okay, that's a joke, but we got this one.
I have a cemetery near my house. Huge cemetery. We can film there, and it'll be like, ooh, there's tombstones everywhere, and then there's Jason. And we're running in a Friday the 13th, K, and there's a tombstone, and there's Jason.
You keep saying tombstone, and I'm thinking of Kurt Russell and Sam Elliott.
Do you know them? Can we get them in the movie?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we could just have Kurt Russell direct it because he directed Tombstone.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I'm Jarren. I gotta say, I'm appreciative of your connections. Unlike that other loser, Gerrit, who doesn't know anybody. He's not 6 degrees from anybody.
Dick, I gotta say, I'm really happy. Richard, Dick, I'm happy that you're not Kevin. That's all I got.
No
on
worries. I understand. That guy is also a loser. They're actually in a movie called The Losers, and they're played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Chris Evans. And I don't care who plays who in that movie. I'd take both to play Kevin. Doesn't matter.
Very well said.
Yes, I think that was well said. Actually,
That
I
was
think if
great.
you rewind that, it made sense. So I do feel proud of that. Okay,
Okay.
well, this is a long episode. Let's end it.
This is great.
Yeah, good times.
Next episode, we'll talk about your Moonraker theory.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about it right now, so you can think about it for a week. Okay, not right now.
Please
but after
don't
the
do
episode's
that.
done.
Please don't do it to me.
Okay. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.
Love you. Stay safe out there.
Gerrit and Kevin will be back next week.
Probably.